Chapter 81. Chapter 81, The Power of 8 Consecutive Wins. However, he was surrounded by nearly 30 Enforcement Palace disciples. In an instant, all kinds of attacks were launched at Lu Ming. There was no way to dodge. Bloodline explosion. Lu Ming did not hesitate and immediately activated his blood meridian. Lu Ming's blood meridian exploded and his combat strength increased by a large margin. He directly ignored most of the attacks. As long as he avoided the physical attacks of the long sword and the saber, he would be fine. Boom, boom, boom. Streams of sword chi, saber chi, and fist force all landed on Lu Ming's body. However, Lu Ming's body only swayed slightly, and he continued to slash out with the star sword. The lustrous sword technique was extremely fast, and he slashed dozens of times in an instant. Ah! Ah! Screams rang out continuously as 7 to 8 figures were sent flying. All of them were heavily injured and fell to the ground. Kill? Lu Ming was in a frenzy. The essential chi in his body was so condensed that it was almost tangible, and it burst out continuously. His blood meridian level was currently at level 4, and the time for his blood meridian to burst out was only 5 breaths. In these 5 breaths he was extremely powerful. Whoosh, whoosh. The heavenly star sword kept slashing out, and the screams continued. One figure after another kept flying out. Bang, bang. The disciples of the Tribunal Council were like sandbags as they fell to the ground one after another. The surrounding disciples of the 4 courtyards were so shocked that their eyes almost popped out. Monster, isn't Lu Ming too powerful? How long has he been in the sect? And did you guys see that? He actually ignored the attacks. He must have some kind of defensive treasure on him. Otherwise he wouldn't be able to withstand so many attacks. That's right. There must be a defensive treasure. Lu Ming is actually not that powerful. He relied on the defensive treasure to catch the law enforcement hall off guard. Look, he's injured. The senior disciples of the 4 courtyards were in a heated discussion. Although they felt that Lu Ming must have relied on a defensive treasure, their eyes were still filled with shock. Puchi. Lu Ming spat out a mouthful of blood. 5 breaths had passed, and more than 20 Enforcement Palace's disciples had been severely injured by him. They were no longer able to fight. However, he had taken so many attacks head-on. Even though he had devoured half of the attacks, he was still injured. He's injured, kill him. The remaining Enforcement Hall disciples roared and continued to pounce on Lu Ming. Clang. A tall and thin young man exchanged a blow with Lu Ming. Lu Ming trembled and could not help but take a step back. 9th Grade Master Realm. Finally, a 9th Grade Master Realm expert from the Tribunal Council made his move. As soon as Lu Ming retreated, the rest of the people rushed forward. During this entire process, Yao Tianyu had no intention of making a move. He continued to stand at the side, watching coldly. It seemed that Lu Ming was not worthy of him to take action personally. Beside Yao Tianyu there was another young man. He was as strong as an iron tower, but he did not make a move either. So what if you're a 9th Grade Master Realm? Kill. Lu Ming attacked more than 10 times in a row, forcing the others to retreat. Then he fought with the 9th Grade Master Realm expert. In an instant the two exchanged more than a dozen moves. Ding. Thump. After a dozen moves, the 9th Grade Master Realm youth's expression changed drastically and he retreated a dozen steps. Buzz. Lu Ming took a step forward and rushed toward the red-robed young man. Now it's your turn. Lu Ming's eyes were cold and murderous. The red-robed youth was scared out of his wits. So many Tribunal Council experts and they could not stop Lu Ming? How was this possible? Senior brother Yao, save me. He couldn't help but shout. Yao Tianyu frowned and said, He Tai attack. Yes. The iron tower-like young man behind him responded, and then he stomped on the ground. Boom. The ground shook and the hard floor cracked. The iron tower youth's body was shot out like a cannonball. Fast, extremely fast. He was even faster than Lu Ming when he used the dragon serpent steps. He was near Lu Ming in an instant. He threw a punch and the violent fist force surged toward Lu Ming. So strong. Lu Ming's heart trembled. The iron tower young man's punch gave him an extremely dangerous feeling. Without any hesitation he used all his true chi and slashed at the iron tower young man. Boom. The iron tower young man's fist heavily hit the star sword. In that instant, Lu Ming felt as if he had been hit by a huge mountain. The force was unstoppable. Lu Ming's body shook violently and he was sent flying. Lu Ming flew more than 10 meters before landing on the ground. Then he took 8 steps back. With each step, the floor cracked and rumbled. After 8 steps, Lu Ming finally stopped and spat out a mouthful of blood. He Tai, it's He Tai who made a move. He Tai is a genius expert who won 8 consecutive victories on the bronze platform. He's not far from the bronze ranking. With him, Lu Ming is doomed this time. That's right. Lu Ming and He Tai are too different. Seeing the Iron Tower youths attack, someone cried out in shock. 8 consecutive wins on the bronze platform? It is indeed powerful. Lu Ming looked at He Tai who was in front of him with a grave expression. If the disciples of the mystical sword sect wanted to enter the bronze ranking, they had to go up to the bronze platform and accept challenges. Only those who won 10 consecutive rounds could be ranked on the bronze list. He Tai, on the other hand, had already won 8 matches in a row. He only needed to win 2 more times in a row before he could enter the bronze rank. Of course, it wasn't that easy because the further one went, the more difficult it would be, and the stronger the people they would meet. But 8 consecutive wins, his strength was also very strong. It's not bad that you can take a punch from me, but I advise you to surrender. You and I are far apart. He Tai said indifferently. Haha, if you want to fight, then fight. You want me to surrender without putting up a fight? Impossible. Lu Ming wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and laughed. You're so stubborn. Boom. He Tai charged at Lu Ming and threw another punch. This punch was even more powerful than the previous one. Lu Ming's pupils constricted. He did not take the attack head-on. Instead, he used the dragon serpent steps and dodged to the side. You can't avoid it. He Tai stomped on the ground heavily, causing the floor to crack. He was like a wild beast charging towards Lu Ming. He threw another punch. It was extremely fast. He could not avoid this punch. If he couldn't avoid it, then he would take it head-on. Lu Ming circulated the true war dragon technique to the extreme. His essential chi surged wildly as he slashed out. The heavenly star sword and He Tai's fist collided once again. Boom. Lu Ming's sword aura was defeated in an instant. The difference was too great. They were not even on the same level. He Tai's combat strength was too strong. Although he was also a 9th grade master, ordinary 9th grade master realm cultivators were trash in front of him. He could defeat them with a single punch. With Lu Ming's current combat strength, he could definitely fight an ordinary 9th grade master realm expert without activating his blood meridian. However, he was still far from He Tai. Bang. Lu Ming was sent flying backward. He slid for dozens of meters before he stopped. Lu Ming spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. His face was pale and his body was staggering as if he could fall down at any moment. Is this the strength of a true genius of the mystical sword sect? It's really powerful. Lu Ming secretly sighed. Chapter 82. Chapter 82, Persistent Battle. During the newbie trial, he had defeated all the other geniuses and won the newbie king title. At that time, he thought that the other geniuses were only SOSO, but now that he thought about it, he was wrong. The other geniuses among the newcomers weren't too weak. They were just too young and immature. They just hadn't matured yet. Perhaps in a few years, some people would also grow to be very powerful. Capture him. He Tai waved his hand and said. Lu Ming was already seriously injured. He did not need to do anything. Let's see how you're going to resist now. The remaining dozen or so enforcement hall disciples walked toward Lu Ming with ferocious looks on their faces. Lu Ming had injured more than 20 of them. They were both fearful and hateful of Lu Ming. Hee. Lu Ming supported himself with his long sword. He scanned his surroundings and sneered. What are you laughing at? You'll get it when we get to the law enforcement palace. A skinny monkey-like young man laughed hideously and clawed at Lu Ming's head. He wanted to press Lu Ming's head to the ground and humiliate him. But dash. Whoosh. A sword light flashed and a few streams of blood shot out. There were 5 fingers in the blood. Skinny Monkey looked at his bare palm in a daze, then let out a heart-wrenching scream. On my finger. Lu Ming, I want you to die. Of course, Lu Ming was the one who slashed her just now. Go, let's attack together. The others roared. There were 10 of them, including a 9th grade master realm expert. One attack after another was directed at Lu Ming. Lu Ming raised his essential chi with great effort and waved his sword to block the attack. Clang. Clang. After a few consecutive moves, Lu Ming's body kept retreating. With a swish, He was struck by a sword and blood immediately flowed out. Lu Ming, lie down and surrender. A young man from the tribunal council shouted. In your dreams. The only response they got was two simple words. Then I'll beat you until you lie down. Whoosh, whoosh. The attacks continued to surge toward Lu Ming. These tribunal council disciples were all experts. At this time, Lu Ming was severely injured and it was difficult for him to withstand the attacks. After a few moves, a few more wounds appeared on his body and blood flowed out. Lu Ming's entire body was stained red with blood. His steps were light and he seemed to be on the verge of collapsing. However, he still stood tall and straight. His eyes were still firm and persistent. At this moment, the entire place was silent, and the air seemed to have frozen at this moment. No one spoke as they stared at the figure in a daze. Senior brother Lu Ming. The new Vermilion Bird Hall disciples clenched their fists and their eyes turned red. Their eyes were filled with guilt. They felt guilty for not standing up for them earlier. They all knew that the reason why Lu Ming came here and tore down the Star Moon Tower was to avenge Pang Shi. For his friends, for his brothers, to be able to do this was a true man, a true man. Compared to Lu Ming, they felt that they were too inferior. Stop, stop. The skinny youth roared and suddenly charged forward. Pah. The red-robed young man suddenly rushed out and slapped the thin young man, sending him flying. He said arrogantly, "Get lost, you'll get it later." Then he looked at Lu Ming and laughed. Lu Ming, weren't you very arrogant just now? What? Now I can't, I don't have any strength. Come and hit me, ha. Bang. As soon as the red-robed young man finished speaking, he was slapped hard on the face. This slap was extremely loud and extremely ruthless. The red-robed young man's body spun a few times before coming to a stop. One side of his face was almost smashed and blood was spurting out of his teeth. He was so stunned that he even forgot to scream. He looked at the person who hit him in a daze. It was a woman, an extremely alluring and sexy woman with an extremely good figure. However, her expression was extremely cold. Mulan. A name flashed through the red-robed youth's mind. Mulan had finally arrived. No one could see how she had arrived. Since you're asking for a beating, I'll definitely fulfill your wish. Mulan's cold voice was heard. She then waved her hand. Pa. Another slap landed on the other side of the red-robed young man's face. Blood was still spurting out because all the teeth had been spat out. The red-robed young man did not fly out. He was pulled by a force and spun a dozen times on the spot before he stopped. It was clear how powerful the slap was. The moment he stopped, he saw Mulan's cold face again. His heart trembled and he almost peed his pants. He shouted, "Fu Xiao Ah." His mouth was leaking air and he couldn't even speak clearly. Get lost. Bang. Mulan kicked the red-robed young man and sent him flying more than 10 meters. He screamed and fainted. Not far away, Yao Tianyu, who had been very calm all this while, was no longer calm. He looked at Mulan with a grave expression. The people from the law enforcement hall did not dare to make a move either. They looked at Mulan with a grave expression. Mulan did not even look at the others. She walked to Lu Ming's side and said with a concerned expression, "Are you all right?" "It's fine, I won't die yet. I owe you another favor this time." Lu Ming smiled faintly. "You can still smile? Quickly take this pill." Mulan took out a pill and passed it to Lu Ming. Lu Ming did not stand on ceremony. He took it and swallowed it in one mouthful. The pill melted in his mouth and turned into waves of energy that permeated Lu Ming's entire body. His wound quickly stopped bleeding. Such a strong medicinal effect. This healing medicinal pill's grade was definitely not low. At this moment, Mulan turned to Yao Tianyu and said coldly, "You're good, you dare to attack the Vermilion Bird Hall's disciples." Elder Mulan. Yao Tianyu's expression turned ugly. He cupped his fists and said, "Elder Mulan, we're enforcing the law impartially. Lu Ming relied on his high cultivation base to injure dozens of people from the Star Moon Tower for no reason. He even forcefully demolished the Star Moon Tower. Of course, the law enforcement hall has to severely punish such an unruly and reckless disciple. But Lu Ming is insane. Not only did he resist arrest, but he also injured so many people from the law enforcement hall. Elder Mulan, as the chief elder of the Vermilion Bird Hall, I hope you won't shield him." Nonsense. The skinny youth's face was swollen after being slapped by the red-robed youth. He walked out resolutely and said, It's obvious that the Star Moon Tower forcefully bought the materials for the Vermilion Bird Hall's new apprentices. They even beat people up. Senior brother Lu Ming is fighting for us and seeking justice. How is this against the sect rules? That's right, senior brother Lu Ming is seeking justice for us. A few more new Vermilion Bird Hall disciples walked out. With Mulan's arrival, they were emboldened and couldn't hold it in any longer, so they told the truth. You're talking nonsense. How could the Star Moon Tower do such a thing? Yao Tianyu asked in a low voice. If they did, the Tribunal Council would have punished them long ago. Moreover, you said that you only bought the Vermilion Bird Hall by force. That's even more ridiculous. Does the Star Moon Tower have any enmity with the Vermilion Bird Hall? I think it's obvious that the few of you are in cahoots with Lu Ming. You want to frame the Star Moon Tower. Chapter 83. Chapter 83, Chapter 83 Not Qualified. No, we're just telling the truth. The Vermilion Bird Hall disciples quickly explained. Alright, I'm done. Mulan waved her hand, then looked at Yao Tianyu and said, Now, I'll tell you clearly. I don't care who Lu Ming hit or whose house he demolished. I don't care about all these. If I say that Lu Ming is innocent, he is innocent. If I say he's not guilty, he's not guilty. So domineering, so overbearing. This was Mulan. She was completely unreasonable when she was domineering. You. Instantly, Yao Tianyu's face turned red and he almost suffered internal injuries. Mulan didn't play by the rules at all, yet he couldn't do anything to her. Elder Mulan, even though you're an elder of the Vermilion Bird Hall and the granddaughter of Dean Yin, you can't just use your power to bully others, can you? There are so many disciples here watching. After holding it in for a long time, Yao Tianyu finally managed to squeeze out this sentence. I'm just bullying people, so what? Mulan replied indifferently. Yao Tianyu trembled in anger. Good. If that's the case, I'll report this to the elders of the Tribunal Council. Let's go. Mulan's arrival was extremely domineering. Yao Tianyu knew that it was impossible to take down Lu Ming today. After leaving behind a harsh sentence, he turned around and left. Who said you can leave? Mulan's cold voice was heard. Yao Tianyu's figure paused. He looked at Mulan and gritted his teeth. Elder Mulan, what's your order? You injured him and want to leave just like that, isn't that too easy? Leave behind the medical expenses? I think it will take at least 1 or 2 million taels of Esilavir to fully recover from this kind of injury. Mulan's gaze wandered all over Lu Ming as she said slowly. Medical expenses? 1 or 2 million taels. All around, the onlookers were stunned. Some of them dug their ears hard, thinking that they had heard wrong. Even Lu Ming was in a daze. Mulan was asking for an exorbitant price. As expected, Yao Tianyu couldn't hold it in any longer and roared, Medical expenses? Mulan, don't go too far. Lu Ming injured so many of our people? I didn't even ask him for medical fees and you're asking me for it? Impossible, I'm telling you, it's impossible. Injured your people? They deserve it. Let me tell you, if you don't pay for the medical expenses today, I don't mind breaking your bones one by one. Mulan said coldly. He was too domineering and overbearing. He did not give Yao Tianyu any face at all. No, it was not that he did not give Yao Tianyu any face, but he did not put him in his eyes at all. Yao Tianyu's expression was extremely ugly. Although he was a genius on the bronze rank, he was only a bronze disciple. If he were to fight Mulan, he would definitely be killed with a single slap. His face turned green and white. If he were to give in today and pay for the medical expenses, he would really lose all his face. Haha, niece Mulan, in my opinion, let's just drop this matter. At this moment, a deep voice was heard. A figure descended from the sky. It was an old man in his 60s. He was wearing a Esilavira robe and had a kind smile on his face. He was a Esilavira robed elder. Upon seeing the old man, Yao Tianyu was overjoyed and shouted, Elder Ming, you must seek justice for this disciple. Elder Mulan has gone too far. This Esilavira robed elder was from the Azure Dragon Hall. Mulan's expression darkened as well. She said, Old man Ming, I advise you not to meddle in other people's business. The people in the surroundings were dumbfounded again. Mulan was too awesome, wasn't she? She called Esilavira robed elder an old man. However, Elder Ming did not show any signs of anger. He still smiled and said, I have already heard about the entire incident. I think that there is a huge misunderstanding. According to my speculation, the Star Moon Tower is the one who is in the wrong. The Star Moon Tower forcefully bought their disciples' materials. Lu Ming fought for justice and injured their disciples. As members of the enforcement hall, Yao Tianyu and the rest naturally had to question Lu Ming when they saw him injuring someone. This caused a fight. This is a complete misunderstanding. Since both parties have people injured, I think we should just let this matter go. Lu Ming's heart trembled. Elder Ming was sacrificing the war chariot to protect the general. This Elder Ming looked kind, but in fact he was a cunning old fox. He pushed all the blame to the Star Moon Tower with just one sentence. In this way, Yao Tianyu would not have to pay for the medical expenses, and Yao Tianyu and the others would have nothing to say to the elder of the tribunal council. Yao Tianyu's face darkened, but he did not say anything. If this matter was really investigated, it would be impossible to hide the fact that the Star Moon Tower had forcefully bought the materials for the Vermilion Bird Hall's new disciples. Therefore it would be good if they could push the blame on the Star Moon Tower. Mulan's eyes flickered. This Elder Ming was a Silavira-robed elder. If he was bent on protecting Yao Tianyu, she would be helpless. Oh, since it's the Star Moon Tower's fault, they must be severely punished. Otherwise, the disciples of the four courtyards will not be convinced. Mulan's eyes flickered before she smiled. Of course. The Star Moon Tower will definitely punish them severely. All the materials will also be returned. Elder Ming smiled, then said to Yao Tianyu, "Tianyu, why haven't you brought the disciples of the Tribunal Council back to recuperate yet?" "Yes." Yao Tianyu cupped his fists and ordered the uninjured disciples to help the injured disciples back to their rooms. Lu Ming. Then Yao Tianyu cast a cold glance at Lu Ming, turned around and left. "Yao Tianyu." Lu Ming suddenly called out. Yao Tianyu stopped in his tracks. He turned around and glared at Lu Ming coldly. Lu Ming's eyes glowed as he stared at Yao Tianyu. "Yao Tianyu, what kind of skill do you have to call these minions to attack me? I'm challenging you right now. Do you dare to accept my challenge?" As soon as he said that, the entire place fell into silence. Lu Ming actually challenged Yao Tianyu? How was that possible? How could he be a match for Yao Tianyu? "You want to challenge me?" Yao Tianyu retorted. "Not bad, yes," Lu Ming replied firmly. Yao Tianyu's lips curled into a mocking smile as he said disdainfully, "Lu Ming, I'm a disciple on the bronze ranking. What right do you have to challenge me? You can challenge me after you've made it to the bronze rank. You're not qualified to do so now." Yao Tianyu's eyes were filled with arrogance and disdain. With that he turned around and left. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. "Are you disdainful to accept my challenge?" Lu Ming could not help but clench his fists. "Lu Ming, don't think too much about it. This is the rule of the mystical sword sect. If you want to challenge a disciple on the bronze list, you must be on the bronze list as well. Only then will you be qualified. Otherwise you don't have the right to challenge them." Seeing this, Mulan started explaining to Lu Ming. "I see," Lu Ming muttered. However, Yao Tianyu's condescending and disdainful look just now could not be removed from Lu Ming's mind. "The bronze ranking? I'll get there soon. Yao Tianyu, just you wait." Lu Ming clenched his fists tightly, his eyes filled with determination. "Lu Ming, are you all right? Lu Ming, how are you?" Only then did Feng Wu and Hua Qi arrive, panting. Chapter 84. Chapter 84, Healing. "I'm fine." Lu Ming smiled. However, the two of them still looked at Lu Ming in shock. This was because Lu Ming was completely drenched in blood. He looked like a man made of blood. Hua Qi in particular, had a complicated look in his eyes besides shock. He was touched and admired. "By the way, how's Pang Shi?" Lu Ming asked with some worry. "He's fine. The alchemist has already set his bones back and fed him some healing pills. He should be fine," Hua Qi said. "That's good." Lu Ming smiled faintly. Suddenly, his body swayed and his face turned pale. "Lu Ming, what's wrong?" Mulan, Feng Wu and Hua Qi were all shocked. "It seems that I have to recuperate on the spot," Lu Ming smiled bitterly. Lu Ming immediately sat cross-legged and circulated the true war dragon technique to begin healing. "Detestable," Hua Qi growled. Lu Ming could not even go back to recuperate, which showed the severity of his injuries. After that, Hua Qi, Feng Wu, and Mulan all stood close to Lu Ming to protect him. The surrounding onlookers watched for a while before leaving. The news of this battle spread like wildfire throughout the entire mystical sword sect. After hearing this news, everyone had different reactions. Some people scoffed and thought that Lu Ming was a reckless man who did things impulsively and did not care about the consequences. It was unwise to fight even though he knew that he was no match. However, some people were full of praise for Lu Ming. They felt that Lu Ming was loyal, had a firm path of martial arts, and had an indomitable will to advance bravely. On the path of martial arts, one should be fearless and attack when needed. If one had to look around, even be afraid of the slightest thing and swallow one's anger, then what was the point of practicing martial arts and cultivation? Anyway, there were all kinds of theories. Of course, Lu Ming was unaware of this. He was fully focused on healing his injuries. The healing process took 6 hours. When Lu Ming opened his eyes, it was already evening. Lu Ming, are you feeling better? Mulan was the first to notice that Lu Ming had woken up. She asked hurriedly. Much better. Lu Ming smiled. After 12 hours of healing, his injuries had basically stabilized. As long as he could hold on for a while, he would be completely healed. Feng Wu and Hua Qi hurried to Lu Ming's side. Lu Ming's heart was filled with warmth. He knew that while he was recuperating, the few of them had been by his side. However, there was a skinny youth who didn't leave either. He was watching from a distance. Let's go back, Lu Ming said. Then he walked to the skinny youth and asked, What's your name? Lu. Senior brother Lu, I'm Li Yi. The skinny youth said excitedly. Li, thank you for this. Lu Ming smiled. No, senior brother Lu Ming, I should be the one thanking you. Li Yi said hurriedly. Let's go back to the Vermilion Bird Hall together. Lu Ming smiled faintly. The few of them headed toward the Vermilion Bird Hall. Not long after, Lu Ming and the rest had returned to the dormitory. After Lu Ming returned, he did not return to his room. Instead, he walked into Pang Shi's room. Pang Shi was lying on the bed, his entire body wrapped in bandages. His legs and arms were also in casts. At this moment, Pang Shi had already woken up. When he saw Lu Ming entering, he struggled to get up and shouted, Senior brother Lu Ming, are you all right? Don't move, just lie down and rest. Lu Ming hurriedly stopped Pang Shi from moving and smiled. Don't worry, I'm fine. Senior brother Lu Ming, I'm sorry. It's all my fault that you're so badly injured. Pang Shi said with tears in his eyes. He had heard about Lu Ming's battle. After all, it had been more than 6 hours. I should be the one saying sorry. Yao Qianyu and the others targeted me, but they implicated you. Lu Ming said. No, it's not Senior Lu Ming's fault. It's all my fault for being too weak. Otherwise, I wouldn't have implicated you, Senior Lu Ming. Pang Shi said. His eyes were filled with self-blame and determination. All right, Big Rock, don't think too much. Have a good rest. Lu Ming smiled and patted Pang Shi. He then walked out of Pang Shi's room. After returning to his room, Lu Ming entered the Supreme Shrine. The armor of the red-scaled snake is so broken. He took off all his clothes and looked at the tattered red-scaled snake armor in his hands. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. This time, if he didn't have the red-scaled snake armor as a layer of protection, he would have been more seriously injured. After changing into a new set of clothes, Lu Ming went out to fetch some water to wash his body clean. He then returned to the Supreme Shrine and continued to channel his energy to heal his injuries. Time flew by and 7 days quickly passed. 7 days later, Lu Ming practiced a set of fist techniques in the courtyard and exercised his muscles and bones. After 7 days, my injuries have healed. Lu Ming sensed it and thought to himself. His eyes flashed with joy. He realized that the true qi cultivated from the true war dragon technique was not only rich and condensed, but it also had a very good healing effect. An ordinary person would need at least a month to recover from such an injury. However, he only used 7 days. A god-grade cultivation technique was indeed very useful. Squeak. Just then the door was pushed open and Feng Wu walked in. Lu Ming, how's your recovery? I've brought you some medicinal wine, do you want to try it? Feng Wu smiled brightly. I've already recovered. Lu Ming said with a smile. Ah. The smile froze on Feng Wu's face. She looked at Lu Ming as if he was a monster. It's only been 7 days and you've already recovered. Yeah, what's so strange about that? Don't you know that I'm a genius? Lu Ming waved his hand, and it cut through the air with a loud whistling sound. He then looked at Feng Wu with a smug face. Genius? How can a genius be beaten up like this? Feng Wu pursed her lips in disdain, but there was still shock in her eyes. He recovered in 7 days, what a monster. By the way, Feng Wu, can you tell me more about the bronze list? How strong are the geniuses on the bronze list? Lu Ming asked. The bronze ranking? He's very strong. Feng Wu's face turned grim at the mention of the bronze list. As you know, you have to win 10 matches in a row on the bronze platform before you can be ranked on the bronze list. It's not easy to win 10 matches in a row. The higher you go, the more difficult it will be. For example, after you win 8 matches in a row, you will have to face an opponent who has also won 8 matches in a row in the 9th match. After winning 9 matches in a row, you will have to face an opponent who has also won 9 matches in a row. Therefore, it is really difficult to win 10 matches in a row. That's why the geniuses on the bronze list are all extremely powerful. They can defeat warriors of the same level with one move as easily as eating and drinking. I heard that most of the geniuses on the bronze list have successfully cultivated at least one black-level low-rank martial technique. Even if they didn't successfully cultivate a black-level martial arts technique, they would have mastered some secret technique, and some might even have cultivated the path of body refinement. Feng Wu explained in detail. Chapter 85. Chapter 85, Practicing the Spear with the Waterfall. How many people are on the bronze list? Lu Ming asked. 56 people, excluding the Qilin Hall. There are a total of 56 geniuses from the 4 halls who have made it onto the bronze list. Feng Wu said. Only 56 people? Lu Ming muttered. The mystical sword sect would recruit a batch of disciples every year, and as long as they were not over 30 years old, they would be considered as disciples. After so many years, the mystical sword sect had more than 50,000 bronze disciples. There were more than 50,000 people, but only 56 of them were geniuses on the bronze list. One had to know that those who could join the mystical sword sect had to go through a series of examinations. It was a sign of talent, and 1 in 100 was chosen. It was obvious how talented the geniuses on the bronze list were. What's Yao Tianyu's ranking? Lu Ming asked again. 51st. Feng Wu's eyes flickered as she scrutinized Lu Ming. You're not really thinking of challenging Yao Tianyu, are you? He joined the mystical sword sect 2 years ago, and I heard that he was a strong contender for the newcomer king during the newcomer's trial. Although he failed, his talent cannot be underestimated. Although he's ranked 51st, his abilities have improved very quickly. I believe that he'll continue to rise. Lu Ming, it won't be a problem for you to defeat him in another year. But it's still too early this year. Feng Wu, since you don't trust me that much, how about we make a bet? I'll bet on whether I can defeat Yao Tianyu in 4 months. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Oh, what are we betting on? Feng Wu said. What are we betting on? Let me think. Lu Ming touched his chin. Then his eyes wandered all over Feng Wu's body. From time to time he would even let out a sigh. Feng Wu's pretty face turned red. She glared at Lu Ming and shouted, Lu Ming, you're shameless, don't even think about it. Feng Wu, why are you scolding me? I just wanted to bet on a big meal to see if you have that much money. You see, my thoughts are not pure, right? Lu Ming looked surprised. You. Feng Wu's face turned even redder all the way to her ears. She glared at Lu Ming and said fiercely, Fine, I'll take the bet. If I don't rip you off, my name isn't Feng Wu. Having said that, he threw a jar of medicinal wine at Lu Ming and left in a huff. Ha ha ha. Lu Ming laughed heartily. It was quite interesting to tease the beauty Feng Wu occasionally. He opened the wine jar and gulped down a few mouthfuls. Lu Ming began to consider his future cultivation path. It's too slow to cultivate the basic gun technique like this. If this continues, I don't know when I'll be able to cultivate the fire-controlling gun technique. I need to use external forces to speed up the cultivation of the basic gun technique. If one wanted to be on the bronze list, he had to master a profound-level martial arts technique. There it is. Lu Ming was deep in thought when his eyes suddenly lit up. Immediately he gulped down the entire jar of medicinal wine. It's really good wine, but it's a pity that it has a medicinal smell and lacks a lot of flavor. Lu Ming clicked his tongue and walked out. The first place he went to was the contribution hall. He exchanged the 2 million taels of SI Levira for contribution points, so he had a total of 20,000 contribution points. He only had a few 100,000 SI Levira on him. In addition to his previous contribution points, he had a total of 25,500 contribution points. Then he started to exchange for the demonic beast blood essence. He was going to exchange for the blood essence of a Class 8 Level 2 demonic beast. A portion of 8th grade 2nd level demonic beast blood essence was worth 800 contribution points. Lu Ming exchanged for 20 sets, which cost him 16,000 contribution points. It was too expensive. Lu Ming's heart twitched a few times. He had wanted to exchange for some Class 9 Level 2 demonic beast blood essence, but it cost 1,600 contribution points per portion. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. He could only put it aside for the time being. After exchanging for the demonic beast blood essence, Lu Ming left the mystical sword sect and headed east. The layout of the mystical sword sect was rather peculiar. The 4 halls occupied the 4 most majestic mountains in the north, south, east, and west. The central region was an even wider region. In this area there was not only Qilin Hall, but also the Hall of Mission, the Hall of Contribution, the Bronze Platform, and other important places in the mystical sword sect. Further north of the Onyx Tortoise Hall was the core area of the mystical sword sect. The sect leader, golden-robed elders, golden-ranked disciples, and a portion of Esilavira-robed elders were all cultivating in this area. It was the core of the mystical sword sect's power. The east side of the Azure Dragon Hall was connected to a vast mountain range. This mountain range was known as the Coastal Mountain Range. It was vast and boundless, and countless demonic beasts lived in it. It was said that beyond the mountain range by the sea was the Endless Sea. It could be said that the Blazing Sun Empire was at the easternmost part of the entire Divine Wilderness continent. Lu Ming wanted to go to the mountain range by the sea. He wanted to look for an advantageous position to cultivate his spear technique. It was impossible for Lu Ming to go deep into the mountain range along the coast. He was only at the periphery. 2 days later, Lu Ming was about 200 miles deep. Boom, boom, boom. A waterfall rumbled. The water fell from a height of more than 1,000 meters, forming a huge impact that shook everything within a few hundred meters. This is the place. I'll use this waterfall to cultivate. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Then Lu Ming took out his fire-pattern gun and walked slowly toward the waterfall from the side. The Esilavira water column fell from a height of over 1,000 meters, and its momentum was extremely shocking. The closer they got, the more they could feel the majestic power. To practice the spear, the first step is to practice spear wielding. Only when you hold the spear steadily will you be able to grasp the other basic spear techniques. Then Lu Ming grabbed the end of the spear with one hand, stretched his hand straight, and extended the body of the spear into the waterfall. The moment the body of the spear was washed by the water from the waterfall, Lu Ming felt an extremely strong pressure pressing on the body of the spear. He bent his wrist and threw the long spear down. With a burst of true qi, he pulled the spear back with great force. What a strong force. It's not stable at all. However, this is also a good place to cultivate. Continue. Lu Ming's eyes were bright and determined. He continued to extend the spear, and true energy continued to flow into the spear. This time, he managed to hold on for 2 more breaths before the spear was thrown down by the waterfall. Continue. Continue. Lu Ming was not discouraged. He started to cultivate again and again. Lu Ming realized that cultivating the way he held the spear consumed a terrifying amount of essential qi. Every once in a while, Lu Ming would have to stand aside and circulate the true war dragon technique to recover his essential qi. Of course, there were also benefits to this. Every time his genuine qi was squeezed dry, he would cultivate and replenish it. This would make his genuine qi more condensed and his foundation more stable. During this period, Lu Ming would occasionally devour and refine a portion of demonic beast blood essence. His cultivation level was rapidly improving. 7 days later, Lu Ming could already hold the spear for more than 10 minutes in the waterfall. However, it was very unstable and the long spear swayed back and forth in the water. However, this was already a huge improvement. For another 7 days, the long spear in the waterfall was stable. No matter how the water of the waterfall hit it, the long spear did not move at all. Chapter 86. Chapter 86, Southern Ridge Fire Field. At this stage, Lu Ming cultivated the basic spear technique and made rapid progress. His thrust was as steady as a mountain and he could even stab a fly in the air. On the third 7 days, Lu Ming even tied a stone weighing 100 caddies to the tip of the spear. Carrying the 100-pound stone, Lu Ming practiced spear wielding in the waterfall. Just like that, a month passed. After a month of hard work, Lu Ming had finally cultivated the basic spear technique to an extremely profound level. He held the spear in his hand and stood still like a mountain. After a month of excruciating cultivation and refining all 20 portions of demonic beast blood essence, Lu Ming's cultivation level had improved at an amazing speed. He had already reached the peak of the 7th grade master realm, and he wasn't far from the 8th grade master realm. As the 20 portions of blood essence were devoured and refined in a month, Lu Ming's cultivation level was very stable. Now I can start to practice the fire gun art. Lu Ming entered the Supreme Shrine, took out the fire gun controlling art, and began to read it carefully. The fire gun skill was a fire attribute gun skill and was divided into 6 moves. Fire dance of the fire gun art: broken armor, moon pull, lightning chase, landslide, explosion. Of the 6 moves, other than the move of explosion, the other 5 moves did not have any difference in strength. The only difference was in the way the spear was used. The only difference was in the degree of maturity and comprehension. After observing it carefully, Lu Ming began to cultivate. At the end of the stairs, there was a faintly discernible palace. The sound of chanting continuously rang out, clearing Lu Ming's mind. He quickly comprehended the martial arts technique. Whoosh, and NBSP buzz. The sound of the spear piercing through the air, as well as the vibration of the spear itself, resounded throughout the Supreme Shrine. He cultivated like this for half a month. In the forest, Lu Ming's figure moved unhindered. The fire-patterned spear danced in his hands, like a fire dragon rolling. Whoa! Lu Ming suddenly thrust his spear. Fire gun art: broken armor. The long spear pierced through the air with unparalleled speed, like a bolt of lightning, stabbing towards a 2-meter-tall boulder. At the tip of the spear, a spinning cutting force was produced. Bang! The huge rock was pierced through by the fire-patterned spear like it was tofu. Fire gun art: mountain crash. And NBSP, suddenly the fire-patterned spear shook, and the body of the spear flickered, creating a vibrating force. Boom! The huge rock exploded right in the middle, sending debris flying. I finally reached the first level of the fire gun art. I've just gotten a glimpse of it. Lu Ming's face was filled with joy. As expected of a black-grade low-level martial arts technique, it was extremely powerful. Lu Ming felt that its power had already surpassed the lustrous sword technique even though he had only cultivated the first stage. After all, the lustrous sword technique had been stuck at the 5th level, and it was difficult to break through. The first level of the fire gun technique was equivalent to the 6th level of the lustrous sword technique. Generally speaking, it was very difficult to successfully cultivate a black-level martial skill without the cultivation of a great martial master. For example, the Zhou family's patriarch, Zhou Bing, had only managed to cultivate to the 1st level after decades of cultivation. Lu Ming, on the other hand, had cultivated to the 1st level in just half a month. This was inseparable from the effect of the chanting. Of course, without Lu Ming's hard work in cultivating the basic gun technique a month ago, it would be impossible for him to master the fire gun control technique so quickly. Then he continued to cultivate. 7 days later, Lu Ming was sitting cross-legged on a green rock, frowning in deep thought. It's still lacking a little. It doesn't feel very smooth. After this period of cultivation, he realized that he was still a little bit short of comprehending the essence of the fire gun controlling art. If he cultivated in this way, even with the help of the chanting, the cultivation progress would not reach the level that Lu Ming was satisfied with. Maybe it's because of the environment. The fire gun art belongs to the fire attribute. I should go to a place full of fire attribute spiritual chi to cultivate, then I can be like a fish in water. That way, combined with the chanting sound, I can improve faster. Where's the fire attributed spiritual chi? All right, the Southern Ridge fire field. Suddenly, Lu Ming's eyes lit up as he thought of a place. The Southern Ridge fire field was in the southwest of the mystical sword sect. It was an area where volcanoes erupted. The volcanoes covered a radius of 1,000 miles, and it was filled with flames and fire-type spiritual chi. It was perfect for him to practice the fire gun controlling art there. The key was that area not only had a large number of fire attribute demonic beasts, but it also produced a spiritual herb called flame crystal grass. Flame crystal grass was one of the precious materials required to cultivate the 3rd stage of the true war dragon technique. This was a material that was more precious than the spirit condensing fruit and the blood mist rock. If he were to exchange for it at the mystical sword sect, Lu Ming estimated that it would cost at least 10 to 20,000 contribution points. Going to the Southridge fire field was killing two birds with one stone. Lu Ming immediately returned to the mystical sword sect to visit Pang Shi. After such a long time, Pang Shi had already recovered and was even more diligent in his cultivation. Seeing that Pang Shi was fine, Lu Ming was relieved. He then exchanged some detox pills and essential qi recovery pills with his contribution points and headed to the Southridge fire field. On the way, Lu Ming caught a 4th grade 2nd level gale lion. The speed of the wind travel lion was extremely fast, much faster than the green scale horse. 5 days later, Lu Ming arrived at the Lingnan fire field. They could already feel waves of hot air blowing against their faces before they even entered the Southern Ridge fire field. After releasing the wind-walking lion, Lu Ming walked into the Southridge fire field. There were no volcanoes in the periphery of the Lingnan fire field. The ground was pitch black like burnt rocks. Hot air was rising from the ground. Whoosh! Sometimes a gas would rush out of the ground. It was extremely hot, and ordinary people would be scalded if they touched it. Not long after Lu Ming entered, he would occasionally see some figures. These people had a name: Stone Hunters. There were many volcanoes in the center of the Southern Ridge fire field. When these volcanoes erupted, they would spew out a type of ore called Inferno Stone. Inferno Stone could be refined into Inferno Iron, and it was the best material for forging spirit weapons. However, those who would come here to pick up stones were usually itinerant cultivators with low cultivation, and there were even ordinary people. The Lingnan fire field was full of danger. The ground would spew out hot gases, lava, and flames from time to time. Even a martial arts master would be severely injured or even killed if he was hit by the flames. As for Inferno ore, it was just in ore and wasn't expensive. Therefore, those with high cultivation rarely came here. Lu Ming did not stay long in the outer area. He wanted to go to the central region where there were many fire-type demonic beasts and the fire-type spiritual qi was stronger. That was the place for cultivation. Very soon, Lu Ming passed through the outer area and arrived at the central area. In the central region, the air was even hotter, as if they were in a big steamer. The stones on the ground were all fiery red, and one could even hear a pop sound. Lu Ming looked around and could occasionally see lava gushing out of the ground. This area was even more dangerous and almost no one came here. Lu Ming circulated his essential qi throughout his body to resist the heat from the outside world. At the same time, he was fully focused on observing the situation on the ground. This was to prevent them from being hit by the lava. Chapter 87. Chapter 87. Disciple of the 10 Directions Sword School. He then walked in. After walking for about 10 miles, Lu Ming stopped. This was because a fierce tiger with red flames all over its body had appeared in front of him. The Scarlet Flame Demonic Tiger was a Class 8 2nd-level demonic beast. It was a fire element demonic beast and usually lived in places with rich fire element spiritual qi. Roar! The Scarlet Flame Demonic Tiger suddenly roared and opened its mouth. A pillar of fire spewed out of its mouth and blasted toward Lu Ming. Good. Lu Ming's eyes gleamed and he took out his fire-patterned gun. Fire gun art broken armor. With a thrust of the spear, the spinning cutting force burst out and destroyed the pillar of fire spat out by the Scarlet Flame Demonic Tiger. Then Lu Ming charged at the Scarlet Flame Demonic Tiger and smashed his spear at it. Fire gun art mountain crash. The long spear pressed down, emitting a violent whistling sound. The Scarlet Flame Demonic Tiger seemed to sense danger. The fiery red fur on its body stood on end, and on its fur there were scorching flames. These flames condensed into a huge fireball in the air and shot towards the fire-patterned spear, trying to block the attack. However, it was all in vain. The fire-patterned spear was unstoppable. With a slight shake, the fireball collapsed, and the fire-patterned spear continued to smash down. Bang! The spear hit the Scarlet Flame Demonic Tiger's head, making a cracking sound. The Scarlet Flame Demonic Tiger's forehead caved in. The Scarlet Flame Demonic Tiger's huge body rolled back dozens of meters before it stopped. It was no longer breathing. Lu Ming walked over and controlled his blood meridian to suck out the Scarlet Flame Demonic Tiger's blood essence. Lu Ming would not miss the chance to obtain the blood essence of an 8th grade 2nd-level demonic beast. In the mystical sword sect, it cost 800 contribution points. Circulating his spirit-devouring bloodline, it did not take long for him to devour and refine the Scarlet Flame Demon Tiger's blood essence. Lu Ming's cultivation had improved once again, but he was still a little lacking to break through to the 8th grade Master Realm. This place is rich in flame qi, I'll cultivate the fire lance technique here. Immediately, Lu Ming's mind sank into the fire gun control art and he began to cultivate. Chi-Chi and NBSP buzz. Shadows of the spear were everywhere and the energy was surging. Lu Ming felt that his cultivation was extremely smooth. There was no obstruction when he circulated the spear technique. It was as if he was one with the surrounding environment. As expected, the environment had a great influence on the cultivation of battle techniques. Smooth, it's too smooth. Lu Ming's eyes lit up and he was immersed in this feeling. Lu Ming only stopped after 6 hours of cultivation. And NBSP hoo-hoo. Lu Ming panted heavily. Cultivating here required him to circulate his essential qi to protect his body at all times. He also had to observe his surroundings to see if there was any magma or flames rushing out. It was very taxing on his essential qi and mind. However, Lu Ming's eyes were filled with excitement. He had only cultivated for 6 hours and Lu Ming could feel that he had made great progress in the fire gun art. Lu Ming immediately retreated to the outer area to recover his essential qi. After his essential qi had recovered, Lu Ming entered the Supreme Shrine again. With the help of the chanting, he continued to comprehend the feeling of cultivating in the central region. Sure enough, with the chanting, the feeling of cultivation just now became clearer, and his understanding of the fire gun art was one step closer. A few hours later, Lu Ming entered the central region again to cultivate the firearms control art. Just like that, Lu Ming cultivated in the central area. When his essential qi was exhausted, he returned to the outer area to recover. Then he combined it with the chanting of sutras to comprehend the fire gun art. Lu Ming's comprehension of the fire gun control art was rapidly improving. In just half a month, Lu Ming's fire gun controlling art had a breakthrough and entered the 2nd level, which was a small success. In addition, Lu Ming had killed no less than 10 fire attribute demonic beasts in the past half a month. 5 of them were at the 8th grade of 2nd level, and 1 was even at the 9th grade of 2nd level. The others were all below 8th grade 2nd level. After devouring and refining the demonic beast's blood essence, coupled with half a month's hard work, Lu Ming's cultivation finally broke through again, reaching the 8th grade Master Realm. Such a cultivation base was already considered extremely high among the bronze disciples of the mystical sword sect. And NBSP hoo-hoo. Once again, Lu Ming exhausted his essential qi and retreated to the outer area. He meditated in a secluded pile of rocks to recover. When Lu Ming's essential qi had recovered by about half, he suddenly heard a commotion not far away. "No, why did you catch me? I'm just an ordinary person without any cultivation. I can't help you. I'm only at 3rd grade warrior realm, so I can't help you. Please let me go." Sounds of begging for mercy could be heard. "Shut up, what's with all the noise? If I say you can help, then you can help. It's your 8 lifetimes of good fortune to be able to help the disciples of my 10 Directions Sword School." A cold shout rang out. From the voice it was a young man. "Young heroes of the 10 Directions Sword School, if I can help you, I will definitely help. But you want us to enter the central region and even get close to the inner region. It's very dangerous there. With my cultivation, if I'm not careful, I will be burned to death. Please, young heroes, spare me." Some people begged for mercy. "Pa." Immediately, the sound of a slap rang out. The young voice continued, "What are you talking about? What did I call you for? What are you doing? If you continue to talk nonsense, I'll cut you into pieces." The other side of the phone calmed down. Suddenly, the sound of something breaking through the air rang out, and a figure appeared on the pile of rubble. It was a young man who was about 17 or 18 years old. He saw Lu Ming at a glance. "Haha, senior brother, there's one more person here." The young man laughed and looked at Lu Ming. "You really know how to hide, but do you think that hiding here is useful? Hurry up and come out and help us scout the way to the central region." Lu Ming frowned. He stopped the essential qi that he had recovered halfway and stood up. "Kit, hurry up and come out. Don't dawdle, I don't have time to waste with you." As the young man spoke, he swiped his claw at Lu Ming's throat. It was obvious that he wanted to grab Lu Ming and throw him out like a chicken. However, he was disappointed. Not only was he disappointed, but he was also shocked. This was because Lu Ming had also extended a hand and clawed at him. He was faster and more accurate than him as he grabbed his wrist. The strong force penetrated the bones of the young man's wrist, and the heart-piercing pain made the young man scream. "Arg! Little bastard, you dare to hurt me? You're courting death." The young man's other hand was about to slap Lu Ming. "Get lost!" Lu Ming shouted coldly, and his essential chi burst out. He swung the arm that was holding the young man's wrist. The young man's arm made a kacha-kacha sound, and the bones in one of his arms broke into several pieces. He let out a blood-curdling scream and flew more than 10 meters away, falling heavily on the ground. "Arg! Ah! You little bastard, you're dead. You dare to hit me? Do you know who I am?" The young man struggled to get up, hugging his arms and crying out in a heart-wrenching voice. "Aren't you just a disciple of the 10-Direction Sword School? Is it that amazing?" Lu Ming pursed his lips. Chapter 88. Chapter 88. Chapter 88 Spear Technique shows its might. "Since you know that I'm a disciple of the 10-Direction Sword School, why don't you kneel down and apologize?" the young man shouted. What an idiot. Lu Ming was somewhat speechless. Could it be that everyone in the omnidirectional sword sect was like this? Since Lu Ming knew that he was a disciple of the omnidirectional sword sect and still dared to attack him, it was obvious that he was not afraid of the omnidirectional sword sect. He even asked Lu Ming to kneel down and apologize. If he was not an idiot, what was he? With a sway of his body, Lu Ming left the pile of rubble. At this moment, a few figures rushed over. They were all young people. Further away, there were 5 young men who surrounded more than a dozen secret practitioners and ordinary people who were picking up firestones. "Junior brother Zhao, what's going on?" one of the men who was running over asked. "Senior brother, this little bastard, he actually dared to sneak attack me. If you move, you have to cripple him for me," the young man from before shouted. "Brat, how dare you hurt a disciple of my 10-Direction Sword School? Now, I'll cripple your cultivation and then obediently help us scout the way inside. Perhaps we can still keep our lives," one of the chubby disciples from the 10-Direction Sword School said. He looked at Lu Ming coldly with an arrogant expression. Lu Ming touched his nose speechlessly. This was a disciple of the omnipresent sword sect? Why did they all have the same behavior and look like they were superior? The 10-Direction Sword School was indeed the #1 sect in the Burning Sun Empire, but there was no need for everyone to put on such a high and mighty expression, right? "Kid, I'm talking to you. Are you deaf?" the chubby young man shouted coldly. "You asked me to scout the way in and even captured so many ordinary people. What do you want?" Lu Ming did not answer. Instead he asked curiously. "Nonsense, is this something you can ask? Obediently go and scout the way," the chubby young man said coldly, then he threw a punch at Lu Ming's dantian. The chubby young man had the cultivation of a 7th-grade master realm. His punch was extremely powerful. If it landed, it would definitely destroy Lu Ming's cyclone and cripple his cultivation. This was the Shifang sword sect, extremely domineering. If they didn't agree, they would destroy your cultivation. The 10-Direction Sword School, hee. We'll have to fight them sooner or later, so I'll collect some interest first. Lu Ming's gaze turned cold. Lu Yuntian might have fallen into the hands of the 10-Direction Sword sect. Lu Ming did not have a good impression of the 10-Direction Sword sect. Now it was even worse. Boom. Lu Ming's flame dragon fist blasted out, and his fist force was faster and more ruthless. A punch accurately hit the fat young man's stomach. The fat young man's eyes instantly bulged out. Immediately he let out a shrill scream. His fat body flew out like a ball, flying nearly 20 meters away before falling to the ground. He rolled a few times before stopping. You destroyed my cultivation? You actually destroyed my cultivation, bastard. The chubby young man let out a shrill scream. You're the only one allowed to cripple my cultivation, but I'm not allowed to cripple yours, Lu Ming said indifferently. Brat, you're looking for death. The remaining 2 young men roared and unsheathed their long swords. 2 sharp sword lights burst out and attacked Lu Ming. The 2 of them were both 7th-grade Master Realm. Fire gun art moon pulling. With a move of his hand, the fire vein spear appeared. He swept the spear across. In the sky, a fiery red light flashed like a moon. Bang, bang. The 2 young men from the 10-Direction Sword sect were unable to resist at all. They were sent flying by the long spear and they vomited blood in the air. When they fell, they were no longer breathing. Lu Ming's shot had already broken their bones and their internal organs were shattered. The chubby young man and the young man from before were stunned. Their faces turned pale and their bodies trembled. Lu Ming's gaze shifted to the young man with the broken hand. Don't kill me." The young man with the broken hand shouted in fear. However, Lu Ming was unmoved. He raised his long spear. "Stop." At this moment, the 5 disciples of the 10 Direction Sword School who had surrounded the stone pickers all rushed over. One of them let out a loud roar and revealed his powerful cultivation at the peak of the 8th grade master realm. "Ah!" The young man with the broken hand cried out in fear and ran for his life toward the 5 disciples of the 10 Direction Sword School. However, whoosh! Lu Ming swung the long spear in his hand and it shot out like lightning. It caught up with the young man with the broken hand in an instant and pierced through his chest from the back, nailing him to the ground. Die. Little bastard, not only will you die, but your family and friends will also die." The peak 8th grade Master Realm disciple let out an angry roar and rushed toward Lu Ming. "Let's see who dies first." Using the dragon serpent steps, Lu Ming turned into a gust of wind and rushed towards the 5 men from the omnidirectional sword sect. When he passed by the one-armed young man, he pulled out his fire-patterned spear. Both parties were rapidly approaching. Wild wave slash. The 8th grade Master Realm disciple roared. He held a huge sword that was as wide as a palm with both hands, and the sword light was like a storm, slashing toward Lu Ming. Buzz. The fire-veined spear shook and swept forward. Clang. The spear and the sword clashed, sending sparks flying in all directions and creating a massive boom. The disciple from the omnipresent sword sect trembled and took a dozen steps back, while Lu Ming's body trembled and swayed slightly. Kill? The next moment, the other 4 disciples of the omnidirectional sword sect slashed their swords at Lu Ming. Out of the 5 major sects of the Blazing Sun Empire, only the 10 Direction Sword School and the Mystical Sword School specialized in sword techniques, and the sword techniques they specialized in were slightly different. The sword techniques cultivated by the 10 Direction Sword School leaned towards being firm and fierce. They were bold and powerful. The 4 disciples from the Omnipresent Sword School, 2 8th grade and 2 7th grade Master Realm, joined forces. Their sword chi was like a raging wave sweeping toward Lu Ming. As he attacked, he also used Bloodline Explosion, which was much more powerful. However, they were facing Lu Ming, who had already cultivated the black level low-level martial arts technique to the 2nd level. Lan Yu. Lu Ming's eyes were bright. The essential chi in his entire body burst out and he swept his spear. Boom, 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 boom. There were 4 consecutive explosions and at the same time 4 screams. The 2 7th grade Master Realm disciples were instantly killed and sent flying far away. The 2 8th grade Master Realm young men weren't any better off. They were sent flying for more than 10 meters before crashing heavily onto the ground. They coughed up large mouthfuls of blood and were also severely injured. One spear strike had killed 2 and injured 2, shocking the peak 8th grade Master Realm disciple. However, Lu Ming would not give him any chance to catch his breath. He rushed forward a few steps and then jumped high up, smashing the fire-pattern gun down. Landslide. The long spear smashed down with a shrill whistling sound. The disciple from the 10 Direction Sword School turned pale. He exploded with all his strength and circulated the power of his bloodline to the extreme. His combat sword slashed upwards. Clang. The spear hit the combat sword and the force whistled out, forming a gust of wind that swept in all directions. Boom. The stone under the disciple's feet exploded. He couldn't stand still and knelt down. The stone on his knee exploded. Chapter 89. Chapter 89. Chapter 89 Extinct Volcano. He coughed out large mouthfuls of blood and fell to the ground like a pool of mud. The spear had shattered both his arms, and the powerful impact had also shattered his internal organs. He was dead for sure. The power of the black-grade low-level martial arts technique was finally on display. Lu Ming had only cultivated it to the 2nd level, but its power was double that of the yellow-grade high-level martial arts technique's 6th level. What? How could he be so strong? Who are they? The disciple from the 10 Direction Sword School asked unwillingly as he coughed up blood. His eyes were filled with disbelief. With his cultivation at the peak of the 8th grade Master Realm, he was actually defeated in one move. The cultivation that Lu Ming revealed was clearly only at the 8th grade Master Realm. Lu Ming of the Mystical Sword Sect. Lu Ming said indifferently. The Mystical Sword Sect. The young man murmured. His eyes then became unfocused and his vitality completely disappeared. At the same time, the other two 8th grade Master Realm experts had also died. Their internal organs were also crushed by Lu Ming. Although the spear technique was not as varied as the sword technique, it was more violent, more direct, and more overbearing. The chubby young man was the only one left. At this moment, the chubby young man's face was deathly pale. His body was constantly trembling and cold sweat was flowing down his face. Lu Ming walked towards the fat young man step by step. Don't kill me," the chubby young man shouted in shock. "Tell me, what does the 10 Direction Sword Sect want by capturing so many ordinary stone hunters?" Lu Ming asked coldly. "I can say it, but you have to promise not to kill me." The chubby young man rolled his eyes and shouted. "Oh, you don't want to say it? Then you can go to hell." Lu Ming's eyes turned cold and he raised the long spear in his hand. The chubby young man was so scared that his soul almost scattered. He shouted, I'll talk. Lu Ming looked at him coldly, waiting for him to continue. "We came with Senior Brother Zheng. He said he would bring us here to search for treasures, so we came." Senior Brother Zheng said that he had read about an extinct volcano near the inner area of the Southridge fire field in the ancient books recorded by his ancestors. "There are treasures inside," the chubby young man hurriedly explained. "Then why did you catch so many ordinary stone hunters?" Lu Ming asked. "Because the area around the extinct volcano is very unstable. Lava and flames will burst out from time to time. The ground will even sink in. We need someone to find a safe way to enter the extinct volcano." The chubby young man was scared to death and spoke in full detail. Lu Ming frowned. It was obvious that they wanted to use the stone hunters' lives to find a way for them. This was what martial arts powerhouses were like. In their eyes, the lives of ordinary people were like ants. Lu Ming would never show mercy to his enemies. However, he could not disregard the lives of others for his own selfish reasons. "What treasures are there in that extinct volcano?" Lu Ming pondered for a moment and asked. "I don't know about that. Senior Brother Zheng didn't tell us. I've told you everything I know. Can you let me go now?" The chubby young man begged, but he was thinking about how to ask Senior Brother Zheng to kill Lu Ming after he escaped. "Wait a minute, I have another question. What's your Senior Brother Zheng's cultivation? Is there anyone who is stronger than him?" Lu Ming asked again. The chubby young man answered honestly, "Senior Brother Zheng is a famous genius of our 10 Direction Sword School. He has already won 8 consecutive victories on the bronze platform. He's not much weaker than the geniuses on the bronze ranking. Among the senior and junior brothers who came this time, Senior Brother Zheng is the strongest. 8 consecutive wins on the bronze list." Lu Ming muttered. The division of ranks among the disciples of the 5 major sects of the Blazing Sun Empire was similar. They were all divided into 3 ranks: bronze, Silavira, and gold. Similarly, there were bronze and Silavira lists in every sect. The rules were exactly the same. "Alright, I've said what you wanted me to say. Can you let me go now?" the chubby young man said. "Let you go? When did I say I would let you go?" Lu Ming said coldly. Then he thrust the long spear and pierced the fat young man's heart. 8 consecutive wins on the bronze platform? I wonder how powerful the 8 consecutive wins on the bronze platform of the 10 Direction Sword Sect are? Lu Ming's eyes were filled with a strong desire to fight. Back then he had vomited blood from Hitai's punch. Hitai had won 8 consecutive victories on the bronze platform of the Mystical Sword Sect. They both had 8 consecutive wins on the bronze platform, but they belonged to 2 different sections. Their abilities might not be the same, but the difference would not be too great. Lu Ming's combat strength had improved greatly during this period of time. It was a good time to test the results. Following that, Lu Ming devoured all the blood essence of the omnidirectional sword sect disciples and found a place to refine them. As for the stone hunters, they had already fled like a swarm of bees when the Shifang sword sect disciples were killed. 2 hours later, Lu Ming's essential qi had fully recovered and he had reached his peak. Then Lu Ming ran in the direction of the extinct volcano that the chubby young man had mentioned. In the southern ridge fire field, in the depths of the central area, near the inner area, there was a tall, dead volcano. It was unknown when this volcano had stopped erupting, but the temperature around it was still astonishingly high. The ground was red. A few thousand meters away from the extinct volcano, there were more than 20 young men. Needless to say, they were all disciples of the 10 Directions Sword School. More than 20 disciples of the 10 Directions Sword School surrounded more than 30 stone hunters. More than 30 stone hunters gathered together, their faces terrified and trembling. Young heroes of the 10 Directions Sword School, I beg you. It's really dangerous there. If you let us explore the way, we'll be sending our slaviers to our deaths. I have old and young people to take care of. I beg you, please let me go back. A burly man in his 50s kept bowing and begging. Whoosh! With a flash of sword light, the burly man's head flew high into the air. So noisy. You want to leave? I'll send you on your way now. A disciple from the 10 Directions Sword School sheathed his sword and said coldly. The other stone hunters suddenly kept quiet out of fear and did not dare to speak again. However, the look of despair on their faces became even more intense. You hurry up and scout the way. If you're lucky enough to walk past, you can still keep your dog life. A disciple from the 10 Directions Sword sect pointed at a dark-skinned man. The burly man's eyes were filled with despair, and his body trembled. If you don't want to go, then die now. The disciple from the 10 Directions Sword School said coldly. I'll go. The burly man said in a trembling voice. Then he walked out while trembling. If they went out to explore, they might still have a way out. If they didn't go, they would die. This burly man must have cultivated martial arts, but he had not awakened his bloodline. He was only at the first-grade warrior realm. He walked forward carefully, and soon he had walked more than 200 meters. Suddenly, a stream of lava rushed out from the ground and directly submerged the burly man. Ark! The burly man screamed and turned into a ball of fire. In a few breaths, he was turned into a pile of charcoal. The temperature of the lava was terrifyingly high. Chapter 90. Chapter 90. The weak are like ants. A living person was instantly turned into charcoal. This scene was truly terrifying. When the other stone hunters saw this, they were so scared that they couldn't stop trembling. However, the disciples of the 10 Directions Sword School were very calm, even cold. Mark the places you just passed. Among the 10 Directions Sword sect disciples, a dark-skinned young man with a cold expression ordered. This cold-looking young man was the Shifang Sword sect's senior brother Jianghu. He didn't even look at the stone hunters. In his eyes, these stone hunters were just ants, tools to be used. His eyes were fixed on the extinct volcano in front of him. According to the records left by our ancestors, this is the place. I must get the fire spirit milk. As long as I get the fire spirit milk, my physical body will definitely be able to cultivate to the 2nd grade. In that case, my strength will increase greatly, and I will definitely be able to win 10 consecutive battles on the bronze platform and enter the bronze list. It's not just breaking through to the 2nd grade, it's even going to reach a higher level. 300 years ago, our ancestor got the fire spirit milk here. Now that 300 years have passed, there must be a lot of fire spirit milk. If there is enough, it's not entirely impossible to break through to the 3rd grade. In that case, how much can my combat strength improve? Jing Qian thought fanatically. Yes, senior brother Zheng. Yes. The Shifang Sword sect disciple replied. Then he threw out balls of white powder and scattered them on the spot where the burly man had just passed, forming a safe path. Now you go and scout the path. The disciple from the 10 Directions Sword School pointed at a young man in his 20s. The young man's face instantly turned pale. His face was filled with despair and cold sweat. He cried out, I beg you, please let me go. I beg you. Ahai, young heroes, I beg you to let Ahai go. Let me take his place. He's still young. A white-haired old man walked out and knelt on the ground, kowtowing non-stop. Grandpa, don't. You can't go. The young man shouted. Let me do it, let me do it. I beg you to let Ahai go. He's still young. The old man didn't seem to hear the young man's words and continued to kowtow. Oh, what a loving grandfather-grandson pair. All right, this young master will be lenient. Old man, you go scout the way. A flat-nosed disciple from the 10 Directions Sword sect waved his hand and said, Grandpa, don't go. The young man's tears flowed down as he shouted. Ahai, I'm already old. It doesn't matter anymore, but you must live on. The old man warned the young man and then walked forward without looking back. The young man looked on in despair. The burly man from before had passed through the first 200 meters. It was very safe and the old man had passed through smoothly. At this point, The old man carefully avoided the place where the lava had spurted out and continued forward. However, before he had even walked 100 meters, the ground suddenly split open when the old man stomped his foot. The old man fell straight down. Then there was a shrill scream, and after a few breaths there was no sound. "Grandpa!" The young man let out a desperate roar. The other stone hunters were even more flustered, their faces pale. "Make a mark." Jiang continued to order. Buzz, buzz. Balls of white powder were thrown out, marking the safe routes and the dangerous places. It's your turn, go up." The flat-nosed disciple pointed at the young man from before. The young man's expression changed drastically. Just now, he cried out. "My grandfather has already taken my place. Why are you still asking me to go?" "Replace you? I never said that he was going in your place. He was the one who requested to go first, so of course I have to satisfy him. Now it's your turn." The flat-nosed disciple from the 10 Direction Sword sect said coldly with a playful expression on his face. The other disciples of the 10 Direction Sword sect looked on indifferently. No, you can't do this, I won't go. The young man kept shaking his head and shouting. The other stone hunters kept quiet out of fear. They did not dare to say a word for fear of being noticed by the disciples of the 10 Direction Sword School. "You're not." The flat-nosed disciple's face turned cold and he grinned hideously. "You don't want to go, right? If you don't want to go, I'll send you on your way now to accompany your dead grandpa." He waved his sword and a cold killing intent enveloped the young man's body. The young man's eyes were filled with fear. In the end he still trembled and moved forward. After the young man walked a few dozen meters forward, he suddenly started to escape to the side. "You want to escape? You're looking for death." The flat-nosed disciple shouted and exhaled. He held his sword with both hands and slashed down at the young man who had escaped. Whoosh! A beam of sword chi shot out and instantly crossed dozens of meters, cutting the young man in half. "I've said it before. If you obediently go and explore the path, you might still have a chance to live. If you want to escape, the only path is death." The flat-nosed disciple of the 10 Direction Sword sect sneered. He then pointed and said, "You go scout the path." Those who were pointed at walked out in despair, trembling as they moved forward, hoping that they were lucky enough to reach the end. But the result was still death. Just like that, one by one they picked up the stones and went forward to explore the way. One by one they died in the fire and lava. However, the safe route was slowly being discovered. The closer one got to the extinct volcano, the more dangerous it was, and the more unstable the underground was. More than a dozen of the 30 stone hunters had died in the blink of an eye. At this moment, they were still about 100 meters away from the extinct volcano. He called a few more people to investigate and finally, a complete and safe path appeared. "Young heroes, can we go now?" One of the remaining stone hunters asked in a low voice. "Leave? Where to? The information here cannot be leaked out." Jiang, who hadn't spoken the entire time, spoke. What's the meaning of this?" The stone hunter's face changed. "What do you mean? All of you will die." The flat-nosed disciple of the 10 Direction Sword sect laughed sinisterly. No, you said that as long as you found a safe path you would let us go. You can't do this. You are disciples of the 10 Direction Sword School. You can't go back on your word. I'm begging you. No, I don't want to die. I curse you to die a horrible death." More than 10 stone hunters had already had hope, but at this time, their faces were filled with despair and they started to shout crazily. "Curse us? You all know that we are disciples of the 10 Direction Sword School. Who would dare to kill us?" The flat-nosed disciple of the 10 Direction Sword sect sneered. There's a person there walking towards us." Suddenly, a disciple of the 10 Direction Sword School shouted. The rest of the people couldn't help but look over. From the right, a young figure was walking towards them. The figure was about 15 or 16 years old. He had a slender figure and a delicate face. However, his eyes were extremely cold, so cold that it was terrifying. This young man was Lu Ming. That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.